we go again. Group E, or as I like to call it, Group 5. I'm, of course, joined by him. Work the space. Jack, how are we?
Him is present.
Him is present. Well, it's good to hear from him. And it's nice to hear from me. YouTube's up to Benji. How are we doing? So, let's get on with it. Group E, a group that contains France, and you could say they've got quite an easy group. They've got Switzerland, Ecuador, and Honduras. None of those teams are going to particularly set this tournament on fire. France will potentially have a big argument. I can't wait. Nasri left out. Let's start with them, Jack. France. Thoughts?
Bold. It's a bold move to drop Nasri. But I think it's not actually as bold as it might appear on paper. Because you hear Nasri and you go, oh, that's a big name drop from the World Cup. But the more I look at this France lineup, and I look at the players in that midfield area who have pipped Nasri, I guess, to the position, Valbuena sticks out as one of those players, the more I think it's kind of understandable. Kind of probably doesn't deserve a spot in this team as much. You know, you look at the players in the midfield area, especially for France. I think they're another team with a pretty well-rounded off midfield. We've touched upon this before, but when you've got players like, oh God, can we start?
Wait, what's he done? What's he done? Jack, stay with me, Jack. Jack, stay with me.
Sorry,
you were talking about the midfield.
I just had to cough.
Jesus, stay with me. Go on. It's okay. You're fine. You're fine.
God, go
Bloody
on without
hell.
me.
Okay,
Bloody
right.
hell.
So the French.
Bloody hell! It's all gone wrong.
It made me panic. So Lloris in goal. Good player. You know, I think he's particularly good for France, and he's the captain of the French national team. That shouldn't go unnoticed. They've got their defence is interesting because they've got two players, that can play in every single position. They've got. I'm going to run through it for those that don't know the squad. They've got Debussy and Sagna at right back, Evra Indigné at left back, Varane, Koscielny, Sacco, and Mangala at centre back.
Strong defence.
Yeah, it is a very strong defence. Strength in depth, not something all the teams in this tournament have. I think there's only a couple that I could name that have got potential starters in every position at the back. France are definitely one of them. Spain, maybe another one. Germany, maybe sneak in there as well. And aside from that, you look at the midfield, we move on. Cabaye, Valbuena, as you mentioned, Pogba, who's had a terrific season for Juventus. You can see why Nasri's not in that squad. You kind of brought it up. You can see why Nasri doesn't fit. I expect them to play a 4-3-3. They'll play a defensive midfielder with two tad more creative midfielders with Ribéry one side, Griezmann the other, maybe Griezmann, maybe Remy, and then Benzema up to top. I think he'll probably get the nod ahead of Giroud on this occasion. And you can see why Nasri's not in it. Of course, he's a good player, but you also look at Grenier, who's had a fantastic season for Lyon. This French team is kind of going under the radar. No one's talking about the French at all. I've not like the big teams that I mentioned are winning this. Have you heard France?
You hear murmurs of them, and they're the kind of team who I think a lot of people are underestimating because they haven't got huge players. Like, don't get me wrong, some of these players are big players for their teams in Europe, but besides Pogba, maybe Benzema, and they haven't got any huge names, like the players who you stick up on your poster. Ribéry as well, I guess, falls into that category. But what they are is they're a team of top players who are somewhat under the radar, but they have, as you mentioned, that coverage. That coverage is so crucial in World Cups, and they've got that in every single position, particularly at the back. It's a recurring theme this World Cup that teams' defences just aren't what they need to be at this level. France could easily look at their team, and most of their defenders would walk in as a second choice. And most teams, there's very few teams that I'd look at and go, a French defender couldn't slot in there somewhere. And I think that could be their main strength. You know, they've got Lloris and Goy, you talked about their captain. He's played well during their qualifying campaign. Played fairly well for Spurs this year, although it has been a pretty rough season for them. Defensively, they look great. Maybe up top, I don't know. Like, I rate Benzema and Giroud and Remy are great, but I don't know. They've got not that many out-and-out strikers, and I do wonder if there's ever going to be a game where they're desperately chasing the win and they haven't just got those options to bring on to really make a difference.
No, I know you were saying about like they don't have standout names. I do think Pogba, Ribéry, Benzema are those big names, but I think what you're trying to say is there's a Dan, there isn't an Henry.
No, exactly.
There isn't kind of the talisman on the pitch that you really think if things go badly, they can rely on him. Ribéry can go missing. That's happened multiple times for Ribéry, especially in major tournaments. So, but I think France could be kind of, I don't know if they're an underdog because they are still, like, they won the World Cup not that long ago. And none of those players are still in this team. My point is, they're just they're a really good team. I don't really know how to word it properly. They're just a very capable unit of players that if Deschamps can get them all playing well, he's got rid of the negative influence. There's no Anelka this time around. There's no Nazari. So I can see the French doing extremely well. I think they'll probably win all their group games. Speaking of their group games, we'll start with Honduras.
Honduras. Where to begin?
It's funny. We actually know about a few Honduran players because a few of them have played in the Premier League or at Wigan Athletic. So we know about Espinosa, a little bit about Espinosa. Know about Palacios.
Figueroa.
Was it Spurs? Now, another one, Figueroa. So we know a little bit about them. Like, we're not totally, who are these people? Also, the Celtic left back. Izagüe, I don't want to say his name wrong. And I used to know
Emilio.
No, I don't. Yeah, sure, Emilio. Give his first name if in doubt. But yeah, we don't know that much about them. We know a little bit about them. They've been at World Cups before, so they've all got experience. When you look at their squad, quite well capped. I'm just browsing at it now. Not that, like, I think they've only got one outfield player with less than 15 caps.
Yeah.
Two outfield players, with less than 15 caps, which is, it may not be the best squad in the world, but it's a squad, it's a team. And that's what some of the teams that haven't got the biggest standout players that they haven't got, for example, they're not like Colombia, they haven't got a Falcao. Obviously, Falcao's missing out, but you know what I'm saying? They haven't got that one star amongst their other players.
This group's just the team without talismans, is the way I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I'd agree
with
that.
No, I mean, Honduras, and again, another team in this group, Ecuador, teams that they have a few players and you're like, I recognise that game. Maybe not so much Ecuador, though they do have, the likes of Antonio Valencia. But they're the kind of team who, we talked about this again and again and again, and it's getting really old. But they're a team who, to be frank, we don't really know what to expect from them. They have a lot of players playing in their own domestic divisions and in North America and Mexico. And it's kind of one of these things where they could turn up and they could go huge and cause some real upsets, or they could just fizzle off into the distance. And it's the kind of thing where there's going to be players who really impress, and it's down to these players who people don't know about, these unknown quantities, players who might be able to catch out the likes of France, just turning up big and, turning the screw. And I don't know, I look at both these teams, and given the fact that there's very few players I recognise, I just have to say, they're not going to stand a chance against France. But who am I to say you can't beat the likes of Switzerland and France on your day?
Yeah, there's names in the team I recognise, like Jefferson Montero, recognise his name. Salcido, recognise his name. Obviously, you mentioned Ibarra, Valencia. They've got players that, as you say, we don't really know. But you look, Valencia's a pretty good player in this Ecuador team. So we never know. They're a team that I want to be able to be watching a World Cup game. Suddenly one of them does something amazing, and then we're spending a whole show talking about what a great goal they scored, what a fantastic piece of skill they created, or what a great save a goalkeeper's made. Like, they're the kind of team I want to be impressed by, and that's what I kind of love about the World Cup. Shall we? We've gone over Honduras and Ecuador with not really knowing much about them. As much as we could research, there's not much we can tell you. Switzerland, we know about.
I was just going to say, we should explain. We're recording these in advance of the World Cup. So let us know in the comments right now if you're on YouTube or if you're watching on iTunes or listening in on iTunes. Tweet at us at ForTheFans Show. Let us know what you made of Ecuador and Honduras in the friendlies against England, because we don't know what to expect. Yeah. Let us know what you think. Now, Switzerland, Ben, I know you were eager. I know you're a bit of a Swiss chocolate kind of guy. What do we think? I don't even know what that means. Anyway, what do you think?
I actually think they're another team a little bit underrated, Jack. They could be my Japan, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I meant to bash them, aren't I? I meant to like bash them, then, aren't I? Switzerland suck.
Well,
don't know what you're on about. Right, who's their goal scorer then?
Who's their goal scorer? Do you remember Kevin Fry?
No.
Was it Kevin Fry or Fry? Yeah, he doesn't play for them anymore, so not him. They haven't really got a goal scorer as such, but what they do have are a lot of creative and robust midfielders.
And Philippe Senderos.
Forget about him. Barnetta, Inler, Shaqiri, Dosmele. They've got loads. Does he Melia? I know who plays. He plays for Napoli. We know who he is. I can't. His name's. It's difficult. There's a Z in it, for God's sake. I'm sorry. Gelson Fernandez, who plays for Freiburg. They've got a lot of good players, and their defence isn't bad either. You got Giroud, Michael Lang, who's kind of not Senderos. Lichtsteiner plays for Juve. I don't think they're that bad. Jan Sommer in goal. I'm not sure he'll play as much the Basel keeper because the Wolfsburg keeper seems to be the Swiss keeper of choice. But I don't think they're too shoddy. I actually fancy them, especially against Ecuador and Honduras. And even against, like, they upset. Do you remember the last time out? They upset the Spanish at the last World Cup.
Yeah.
Although Spain won it, the only game that Spain lost was a 1-0 defeat to Switzerland. And a lot of these players were in that team. And they were younger at that point, and now they're obviously experienced. There's quite a few caps between them. I think the Swiss have got, they could be my Japan. I like Shaqiri. I like Inlet. I think they've got a good core there, and if they work on that, I think, they could pull off a few upsets. So shall we get straight into predictions?
I was about to say, you seem pretty decided in yours.
I am. Actually.
I'm still sat here scanning through going, I don't want to predict Switzerland. I've got to bash them this World Cup now. I now have an agenda against them.
Well, that's all right. Go on, then you can pick either Honduras or Ecuador.
Oh, well,
I think we're both agreed that France are the standout team in this group. Okay, sorry, I've clearly misjudged the situation.
We are.
Oh, okay, we are. Right, yeah. So France are through. We think France are top in the group.
They look the better team. You'd have to say that they've got a kind of a kind draw. I'm going to say Ecuador as my other team.
Okay.
And the reason I say this is because I don't know what to expect, and I don't like Switzerland now. I'm sorry if you're from Switzerland. Ben did this to me.
Yeah, if there are any Japanese listeners, I'm deeply sorry for what I said about them earlier as well. But by the same token, Switzerland will batter them given the chance.
Right. Maybe that'll happen. We'll arrange a pre-season friendly or something. I'll give them...
Okay.
We'll stitch them up on a double date. Anyway...
What are you talking about?
I don't even know. Where are we going? Should we end now? We always seem to go off topic in these podcasts if we go on for too long, these mini ones. So, guys, thank you for watching. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you can find the podcast on iTunes. And if you're watching on iTunes or listening on iTunes, you can catch us on YouTube at ForTheFans Show, on Twitter, www.forthefanshow.com is our website. There's links to everything over there. Hopefully you guys check it out. Ben, any final words?
The World Cup is getting closer and closer, and I'm bloody excited.
No, calm down, mate. Germany aren't until 2 days, so we can't talk about closer.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Anyway, on that closer, we're out.
Bye.